Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of the Daily Debate. In tonight's show, we're going to be talking about the visit of French President François Hollande to Egypt. He wrapped up a two-day visit where he met President Sisi. Also made a lot of visits to the Egyptian parliament. They signed over 21 agreements regarding economic and military assistance. And to shed more light on this visit and the repercussions of it, we're joined here in the studio by Dr. Walid Gamal, President of the Export Council for Building Materials. We're also joined by Dr. Shreif Khoraby, member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start our debate and our discussion, let's check out this report regarding President Sisi telling Hollande that Egypt is facing many forces of evil, and we'll be right back to start our conversation.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi was defensive about his human rights record at a joint press conference with French President François Hollande in Cairo. He repeatedly referred to conspiracy actors intent on destroying Egypt. He said the country is confronting the forces of evil in this region, which are exerting their utmost efforts to heavily shake Egypt's stability. According to him, such evils are attempting to give a wrongful impression regarding events in the country. The head of state said what is transpiring is an attempt to destroy the institutions of the state, one institution at a time. Today, there's an attack against the police institution and attempts to pin accusations on it with the aim of bringing about the downfall of the Egyptian police. He noted that accusations are pinned on the judiciary to bring about the downfall of the Egyptian judiciary. Even parliament, which was chosen transparently in accordance with the will of the Egyptian population, are casting doubts upon it. President Sisi noted that what is transpiring is an attempt to isolate Egypt from its Arab environs and its European counterparts. President Sisi said the cooperation between the two countries in all international fields needs to expand, including in the areas of transportation, renewable energy and terrorist threats. He described Egypt's relations with France and Italy as very good and distinguished. In this respect, he said Egypt could never forget the assistance that France and Italy provided it with when it was going through its most difficult times. He added what is happening now is an attempt to harm these relations and isolate Egypt and bring down downfall from within. He cautioned that if the Egyptian state falls, that no one will know what will happen to the Arab world and to Europe at large. Also, Sisi stressed that Egypt's commitment to human rights should not be judged by European standards because the Middle East is a very volatile region. Instead, he suggested that measures of human rights should include the provision of quality education and good housing. Addressing tourism, Sisi said Egypt is willing to receive security delegations from France and other European countries to ensure that their citizens will be safe in Egypt. For his part, the French president voiced support for Egypt's war against terrorism, stressing that Egypt's security is key to regional security, which in turn is important for the security of Europe. Hollande said he discussed with Sisi the cases of Italian student and French teachers who'd been killed. He said the conditions surrounding their deaths are not clear at the moment. Hollande provided his own definition of human rights, press freedoms, freedom of expression, and a judicial system capable of responding to all these issues and questions. He said human rights are not a constraint, adding that they're also a way to fight against terrorism because security is assured. He stressed the significance of such human rights issues. Hollande said he spoke with Sisi in details about human rights and relevant cases, showing understanding in the case of the Italian researcher Giulio Regini's murder is still under investigation. He also stressed the strength of the Egyptian-French relations and said that France aims to strengthen its economic ties with Egypt.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Starting off our discussion, Dr. Gamal now. This visit paid by President François Hollande to Egypt saw a lot of activity, saw a lot of signing of memorandums of understanding, press conferences going to the parliament, the ceremony that they actually held at Abdeen Palace. Now, how do you evaluate the importance and the significance of this visit, and what would be the outcome of the French president's visit to Egypt at this critical time?
It is very significant because Egypt is at a point where it is trying to strengthen its relationship with European countries in general, and France is one of the most influential players in the EU politics. So, and there is pressure on Egypt from Italy and the European Parliament recently, and there are threats of imposing certain sanctions against Egypt. So it is very important for Egypt to garner as much support as possible from EU members to try to keep the relationships going at a good rate. So this was very important. This visit was concluded successfully, and that goes a long way towards strengthening our relationships with Europe.
Well, Dr. Khoraby, do you think that this visit by the French president to Egypt and signing all these agreements, do you feel that the rest of the European Union, the rest of the main countries in Europe, such as Germany and many other countries, do you feel that they will really take notice of this visit and will really, in a way, influence or dictate the future of their relationship with Egypt?
Frankly speaking, if we are looking at the European Union these days, I mean, I'm talking about the last 2-3 years, they are facing a lot of problems, economic problems, most of the European nations. And maybe only Germany, Great Britain, and France are the only 3 countries which they don't face at least economical problems. They are the key players in EU. The rest is just like, they are watching and following. Because even in the past, they don't know, the rest of the European Union communities don't play, or they didn't play, and they don't play any role in international politics. So I think France, since even, if you remember, when the launching of the new Suez Canal, also President François Hollande, he is one European leader which attended the celebration. Of course, because, the old Suez Canal, it was the idea of a French citizen. So maybe they are continuing their role related to this very, very important navigation canal. So I believe that France, they are very realistic, and also they are practical in their policy with the other nations in the whole world. You remember when, after removing the sanctions from Iran, he visited Iran immediately with a very big delegation from the government and the French business community. So that man is putting an objective for his country and for his economy. He wants to expand the French economic activities outside France, because all of Europe now, they have a very little economic or business investment opportunities. So they want to look to the territories which they have a serious business and investment opportunities. In my opinion, and it's the opinion of a lot of people which they are watching what is happening in Egypt, 70% of international business is logistics. And Egypt, after the giant project in the Suez Canal area, and after finishing the first phase, is considered now one of the most important logistics centers worldwide. So when the French president is coming, he want to take part of the cake. He want to take the opportunity of having a business in this very, very important area. And at the same time, I think the same day even, there was a visit from German economic minister with a very big delegation as well. Few days before, King Salman bin Saud, he was here. And also we remember about Putin visit and the Russian industrial zone in Suez Canal as well, and China and whatever. So I think that this visit is very important for both sides, for Egypt to show to the whole world that one by one their relationship with the rest of, with the most respectful and influential key players in the world, one by one, the relation is coming again to be in normal conditions, especially after getting the seat of the Security Council. And for France, they want to say that, okay, Egypt is our historical friend, even when Napoleon Bonaparte came to Egypt for occupation. But after that, he fell in love with Egypt, and all of us, we know the positive add value of the French existing in Egypt about 2 centuries ago. So this is a very, very important visit for both sides, but the benefits for Egypt, I think it's much more, because this is, to show to the whole world and to the people, like either inside or outside Egypt, which is you don't see any positive thing in Egypt, that there is many positive things.
Yes.
What is remaining, as I am always saying, that we should have a follow-up mechanism for making a follow-up system for any visit, either from these leaders to Egypt or from our President, His Excellency President Sisi, to outside, or for any projects in Egypt. And this follow-up mechanism should have a website on the internet for anyone in Egypt to look at what is going on, because this is the only way, the transparency and serious follow-up, this is the only one is going to create trust in what we are doing.
Yes. Well, Dr. Gamal, talking about how Europe mainly and the Western community is really viewing what's happening in Egypt, and the President in his press conference mentioned the relationship between Egypt and Italy, which has been under the spotlight in light of the death of the Italian student Giulio Regeni in Egypt. And he's been talking about the strong and friendly relations between both countries still. Now, there seemed to be an uproar in terms of public opinion regarding the death of the Italian student, and really a lot of attention has been paid to this incident. How all the events have been unfolding regarding this incident, do you feel that these visits by King Salman, or mainly by the French President to Egypt, do you feel that it's really quelling all the fuss surrounding this incident, or do you feel that still Europe is focusing more on this incident rather than the visit of the French President to Egypt?
No, I think the focus is not just on the death of the Italian student. In the same day of the arrival of President Hollande, the Vice Chancellor of Germany also arrived with a huge business delegation, over 100 companies. So this shows that this is a serious issue and it must be investigated, and we have to find out how he died and who are the perpetrators, and they have to be brought to justice. There's no question about that. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that our relationships with different European countries will be cut off. I mean, this is one issue, and business relationships are a totally separate issue, because so far we really don't know. We hear a lot of speculation, many theories, but nobody has issued any official statement saying that we now know what happened. And I believe that the government is honestly and sincerely trying to find out what happened to Giulio Regeni, and it is something that will take time, as it is a difficult investigation. But at the same time, I think that politics aside, the relationships are still strong with Europe, and even with Italy. There's a lot of cooperation going on. But even Italy itself, there are a lot of mutual relationships, mutual benefits between Egypt and Italy that cannot be stopped.
Yes.
So life has to go on, and in parallel we are investigating and hoping that very soon we will find out what happened.
Well, and we're just speculating, but regarding this incident, it's a joint investigative cooperation between both countries.
Yes.
Why is it taking so long to actually crack the case open?
I'm a fan of watching a lot of TV shows about crimes and mysteries. There are crimes that certainly have insufficient clues there. It's not easy to find out exactly who did something unless there's enough forensic evidence or enough witnesses and whatever. The police, as far as I know, has interviewed over 400 people. So they have not really spared any effort. They have investigated a lot of information about his relationships with different people in Egypt and Italy and so on. And I think the Italians have been given a full file and a full briefing of everything that's happening, and it is normal that murder crimes take a long time to investigate.
Yes.
And some crimes go unsolved.
Yeah.
This is a fact of life.
Well, Dr. Khoraby, you've mentioned the efforts by the French president to actually expand the relationships with the Middle Eastern countries, and his visit to Egypt is part of his tour that also takes him to Lebanon and Jordan. Do you feel that this visit, or the French president, is maybe one of the more active leaders in Europe? Why is that, and do you feel that the attacks that took place in Paris earlier on, do you feel that this played a role or was a factor in the president actually reaching out to the Middle Eastern countries, trying to really work out the future of France in relation to the Middle East region?
Okay, I believe that even before the terrorist attacks in Paris, President Hollande, his strategy toward not only Middle East but toward Africa and Middle East, it was the same. He is looking for investing what he has from experience, technology, money in outside Europe, because in Europe there is no chance anymore. So I think his role and his visit is 100% economical targets. It is not a political. And even during his visit, either to Jordan or to Egypt, because he was in Jordan today, he didn't mention any opinion about any political conflict, either in Middle East or outside Middle East. He's saying that we are supporting to have a good economical relationship with all people in the Middle East. We believe that Middle East is now, people living in Middle East should take a rest, and they should have a better life and better lifestyle, and that's it. So I believe, as I mentioned at the beginning, that this man, he is keen about increasing French investment. He is keen about finding solutions, because we are in recession, all of the world. We are in a food crisis, which was going to hit the whole world within a couple of days, of years, I'm sorry. So if he doesn't find a solution, a proper solution, either opening market for exporting French technology, and also to have serious investment opportunities outside France. At the same time, also to look for how to get a food for his country, because Europe now is facing a food crisis as well. So it's 100% economic visit with economic targets, and we cannot say that France political strategy is different from Germany, is different from European Union are the same as United States of America, and I don't think they will change, at least in the near future.
Yes. Well, Dr. Gamal, the Minister of Economy, the German Minister of Economy, came to Egypt, and they talked about the program, the cooperation between both countries in terms of training a lot of Egyptian engineers and technical experts for the next 10 years, a program worth about $150 million. Is this the start of showing somehow a really favorable attitude between the relationship between Germany and Egypt? Is this, are we really reading a lot more into it, or is this just an economic agreement between both countries, and probably at the same time Germany will benefit one way or the other from training these engineers and experts?
I think it's always been, the relationships between Egypt and Germany have always been strong. There are many major projects now being undertaken by German companies in Egypt, like the power plants, 3 major power plants undertaken by Siemens, which is huge German conglomerate. At the same time, the 6 tunnels that are being dug under the Suez Canal are being dug using German equipment and a German company doing most of the drilling. So there are benefits for Germany from doing business with Egypt, and training the engineers and technicians of Egypt is only a small token that they give compared to how much they are earning from the projects that they are making in Egypt. The projects are worth something like 11 or 12 billion euros, and then they're giving training for 150 million. So yes, I think it is the least they can do.
Yes, well, the German minister actually reiterated the importance of the Egyptian government overcoming the bureaucratic challenges that any foreign investors and the German investors would face if they want to come and invest in Egypt. Do you feel that this is highlighting the investment and the investment law and the bureaucratic problems that Egypt has been calling and trying to solve for many years now?
Yes. We even Egyptian investors are calling for reducing bureaucracy, and I think there's certainly a universal agreement on this issue that the Egyptian bureaucracy is very strong and very big, and it's getting bigger and stronger. So it is something that everybody agrees on, that something has to be done to reduce bureaucracy and red tape in Egypt, because it has become a major impediment for investment and job creation in Egypt.
Yes.
So we definitely, as Egyptians, we definitely agree with his point of view, and we hope that more foreign investors would raise this issue, so the government would have to really address it.
Dr. Khoraby, now, some of the topics being discussed between both leaders were the Palestinian issue, the situation in Syria and Libya, and combating terrorism. Especially, everyone was really focusing on the Palestinian issue regarding the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu actually holding that meeting in the Golan Heights. Do you feel that France is one of the countries that will be able to take a strong force or take a strong step or really have a strong say in relation to these issues, the issue in Syria and Libya, part of a coalition, part of airstrikes, all of that? Do you feel that things can change? Do you feel that they are a country that will actually initiate a lot of positive activities in the right direction?
I don't think they can do anything. It's, rules, because all of us, we know the Palestinian problem, or you can say what happened since 1948 up till now. It's just, changing chairs. Sometimes France support, Britain against, another day United States with, I don't know whom against, but at the end, what is happening is, since this unconditional support from United States of America to Israel, nothing will happen. And the others, they are just, they are watching, and sometimes they are saying something, but in practice, practically, they don't have any influence to push Israel. Up till now, nothing happened. Everything they want in Israel, they are doing, and nobody stopped them, except the case of Egypt, when the late President Anwar Sadat, he pushed them in front of the whole world to come and sit and make this peace agreement. But what happened after that till now? Nothing. Nothing.
So when we actually hear this phrase that Syria and Libya and the Palestinian cause were topping the agenda of the talks between both presidents, do you feel that we should expect something to happen? Should we, or is it just really reviewing what's going on and the developments taking place in the world?
I think President Sisi is making a very, very smart movement in these issues, because he's taking military side. He's making, a lot of agreements, which by that one we have now ultra-modern weapon in different categories. This one maybe, it is not, I'm not sure, but maybe they will show that, Egypt now is very strong and they are in union with Saudi Arabia and maybe this one will push for having a compromise for the Palestinian issue and maybe even for Syrian and Libyan. And even our President, His Excellency Sisi, he mentioned in his speeches that if the Libyan troops, they don't change the situation in Egypt, maybe we are going to interfere and we are going to fight the terrorism inside Libya ourselves. So anyway, let us wait and see, but what is going to happen either in Libya or in Syria or in Yemen, whatever, but nothing will happen in Israel. I'm telling you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, before continue our discussion, let's check out this report regarding the French President François Hollande actually saying that Egypt is facing 3 grave challenges, and we'll be right back.
French President François Hollande said Monday that Egypt faces 3 grave challenges obstructing its efforts towards development, namely security, demographic and geographic challenges. Hollande's statements came during the Egyptian-French Business Forum held in Cairo in the attendance of the President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Forum was also attended by representatives of 60 French companies. Hollande said France chose to accompany Egypt in its security and economic development goals so they can situate bilateral relations within long-term projects. French President elaborated that Egypt faces a security challenge in a region suffering from tragedies, disasters, deprivation and terrorism. He added there would not be economic development on the medium or long term amid the current security challenges. French President said Middle East countries were hit by terrorism and both sides need to work together to address the crisis and resolve conflicts. As for the demographic challenge, Hollande emphasized that the current population growth represents a burden in the context of an annual growth rate of 2 million without the proper infrastructure and preparations to meet this increase. The third and final challenge, according to Hollande, is the geographic one, as Egypt cannot change its geography no matter its political will. He asserted that the expansion of the Suez Canal is a big opportunity but has to be accompanied by spreading out the Egyptian population on the territory. He said France is the 6th largest foreign investor in Egypt and can do better than that. For his part, Sisi stressed that France is one of the most important trade partners with Egypt, as the volume of trade between the two nations has reached 2.58 billion euros. Meanwhile, the two leaders sealed several economic deals and oversaw the signing of several memorandums of understanding, including a 1.2 billion euro deal to expand the metro line in Cairo. The leaders also increased military ties by signing an arms deal worth more than $1 billion after months of negotiations.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Gamal, military cooperation between both countries seems to be very high on the agenda. Egypt was one of the first countries to actually purchase the Rafale warplanes from France, also got 2 helicopter carrier ships. Do you feel that Egypt has become a key market for France in terms of military equipment, keeping in mind that we also had a lot of military agreements and getting a lot of weapons and ammunition from countries such as Russia and also China? So in a way, we are diversifying our arsenal from many different countries. Do you feel that this is quite an important step? I mean, is this, why are we doing this now? Why did we not do this ages ago?
I think since President Sisi came to power, he made a decision to diversify the sources of weaponry for Egypt in order not to be dependent on any one particular country. And that is a move to protect Egypt from any problems in its foreign relations. If you have a falling out with the country that's supplying most of your weapons, then you'll be in trouble. So I think it's a deliberate policy that he's following, and now he's looking for the best sources and the best prices and best technology, basically, in order to strengthen the Egyptian army.
And how do you see the US administration actually looking over and observing all these military activities taken by Egypt?
I think that there are still agreements with the US in terms of supplying weapons. There's an annual agreement of a certain amount that is supplied in kind. And there's also long-term agreements for the maintenance of the existing weapons and training of Egyptian officers. So we have very good relations with the US. At the same time, we have good relations with other nations. So there's nothing to prevent us from having good relations with different countries.
Dr. Khoraby, now President Sisi met with a lot of world leaders. He made a lot of military agreements with many different countries. And with all these meetings with other world leaders, they always discussed combating terrorism and ways of fighting terrorism. Do you feel that there is something being cooked? Something that some sort of a coalition that will be formed later on in case the Daesh terrorist group really doesn't lose the momentum it has already set over the past period of time. Do you feel that serious steps might be taken by Egypt and some of the countries the president has been visiting and receiving their leaders here in Egypt?
I think so. Because Egypt now is a very, very critical situation. If we look at the West, we can find the situation in Libya is very dangerous and very serious. And as I said, His Excellency said it is clearly that if the Libyan army, they don't finish with the terrorism happening in Libya, we are going to interfere and we'll finish it ourselves. It was a clear statement yesterday. Also, on the other side, we have the tourism still in Sinai, and also crossing the border. I don't know, maybe it's coming from Hamas side. I don't know, maybe other outside forces also they interfere in this problem to make Egypt or Egyptian army confused and unstable. At the same time, also still facing a serious problem from Iran. Also we have from time to time some changes in situations from Sudan, and also have this Renaissance Dam issue from Ethiopia. So at the end we should have a strong army, not to attack others, but at least to show the others that if someone doesn't follow the international law and doesn't respect what the agreements is in the past or the time being, we have the capability and the power to secure our rights in, if the international law and the international community doesn't push the others to respect what is signed from the agreements. So I believe also one of our very strong relation is Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia now they are facing a serious problem in Yemen and also with Iran. And it was clear during the visit of King Salman bin Abdulaziz that there was something related to the military movement, training, and also strategy. All of this, it shows that there is something maybe it will not happen, but at least we should be stand by for maybe from sleep tonight, tomorrow, find there is a war here or there or whatever, not attacking the other, but to protect our rights from the others.
Yes. But Dr. Gamal, away from the military cooperation, President Sisi actually mentioned in his press conference with the French president the human rights issue, and he said that Europe really can't be, or the international community in general can't really be expecting the human rights standards, but by the European standards, to be applied in countries in the Middle East that are going through a lot of political turmoil and instability. How do you view this issue of human rights? How by the European community and the Western community actually looking at Egypt and the Middle Eastern countries in applying these human rights? And should we not expect to be dealing with human rights by the European standards? Should we keep in mind a certain level of political situation and status that accordingly should be kept in mind when dealing with human rights?
Yes, definitely, because human rights, the definitions are different between time-wise and geographically. I think it has a cultural component. You cannot really impose a certain definition of human rights, move it from one country to the next or from one generation to the next. Things change, things evolve, and people understand things differently, and the thinking about human rights evolves. So, and in times of war or in times of national emergency, the definition could also change. I mean, France itself, when it faced terrorism, I think one could argue that human rights took a back seat. And the same happened in Britain when they had riots and so on. So it is understandable that there are certain times of emergency where certain national security comes ahead, and then human rights can be dealt with later. So, and I think it has to be imposed from within. We cannot have a foreign definition imposed upon us. We have to understand how our society works, how our culture works, how our laws work. And then we can impose certain restrictions and definitions. And I think Egypt has made a lot of improvement in terms of human rights, or at least we have a lot of transparency now. So if there are violations, they are brought to light, and they are not hidden. Like what used to happen before. Now, social media and the regular media, television and newspapers and so on, cannot be silenced. So if there's a human rights violation, everybody will be talking about it and it will come to light. So whoever is thinking of committing that violation will have to think twice before doing it, because he knows that there's a lot of spotlight. There's a spotlight that's shining there. So I think there's quite an improvement, quite a lot of improvement in Egypt on human rights issues.
Dr. Khoraby, now President Sisi also mentioned that there is a lot of danger, a lot of forces that are trying to really disrupt the political life and system here in Egypt, whether they are outside of the country or within the country, trying to take down the country one institution at a time. Now, how can we see, or how can we actually deal with these threats? Because not all of them are actually clear, and a lot of them are behind closed doors. But how can we actually know what is the threat, what should be dealt with, what should be left alone, what is coming from within Egypt, what is coming from an outside force taking one institution down at a time? How do you see this statement, and how can the government deal with it?
The threats, we know the sources of the threats for Egypt, either from inside or from outside. And to stop the threats and to fight it and to finish it totally, we should be very transparent. I mean, we don't want to leave something for people to imagine what is going on, what is happening. No. As I mentioned at the beginning of this speech, that we should have a follow-up mechanism for our projects, for the visit, for whatever, because everybody is saying now, okay, there is a lot of conferences, there is a lot of visits for our president outside, there is a lot of visits for the world leaders to Egypt. Okay, what is the end result? And we heard a lot of about a lot of projects and a lot of agreements, a lot of memorandum. What happened to all of this? So I think by having a clear method for having this, as I said, website for showing what is happening for each project, for each visit, for each agreement, for each memorandum of understanding. So anyone want to know what is happening here. This is number one, to fight the threat. Number two, of course, we should have something of securing the talk show programs and don't open the way for anyone to talk like what is happening these days, because everyone now, what is in his mind, if he knows or he doesn't know, he's saying it is not good. A country like China with 1.5 billion people, the people working in politics is about 6,000. They don't have one single talk show, and there about 15 or 17 TV channel. There is no Facebook in China. So either people to respect what we have now, and everybody now can say and respect that if we don't have this unity, if we don't look at the things for the favor of our country, otherwise we are going to destroy the country and we'll destroy ourselves. So we have two ways we should choose. People should concentrate on their work and their business. If he's a student, he should concentrate on his lessons and his exams. You can't find a country in the whole world everybody is talking in politics. Everybody, even the taxi driver, if you use a taxi now, he will say, okay, what happened in this issue, or what happened in that issue, what is the problem in this country. So transparency, a follow-up mechanism with a website for showing what is going on, and at the same time also this what already our president did when from time to time is sitting with people. But I suggested to make this interview or this meeting to be on all governorates of Egypt. So, and it can be even monthly. So 1 month in Cairo, the second month in Alexandria, third month in Mansoura, Dakalia, and Aswan, and whatever. So he is going to be close to his people, and this is the only way to get their support, and to get also, he has a lot of support, frankly speaking. I can say the majority of Egyptians, they like our President Sisi, and they are supporting him. But we don't want to give any chance for the others to start talking in a bad way to change the situation to a threat like what you mentioned now.
Yes. Well, it seems that public opinion is such a strong factor deciding many things in Egypt and its political life. It actually took care of 2 revolutions already. Now, regarding public opinion, now the issue that has been really on every Egyptian's mind for the past couple of weeks was the Tiran and Sanafir Islands going to Saudi Arabia. Later on, the president actually came out in his speech and his meetings, and he really tried to clarify the situation. But so far, do you feel that this was the right move by Egypt to give back these 2 islands to Saudi Arabia? Do you feel that politically and economically it's the right step? Do you understand why Egyptians would be furious regarding such a political move? How do you see this whole situation?
I think the situation, I think the communication, the biggest problem in this whole deal about the 2 islands is really the communication, how the government communicated to the people. There should have been more of a discussion beforehand, or at least the explanations that came after the deal should have been done before the deal. It was announced later that there were discussions going on for many months and studies with the different government bodies about who actually, the history of the islands and who owns the islands and so on and so forth. This is fine, but this should have been, at least that there was a committee that was meeting and discussing and studying. This could have been highlighted early on, a few months before, so the public opinion wouldn't be surprised by a big move like this. And it is something that happens between many nations. I mean, defining borders is something that happens all the time between different nations. Sometimes it happens through arbitration, through a war, or through a friendly agreement. I think the best option, obviously, is an agreement, but it needed to be communicated better. I think this was the major problem that happened, is lack of communication.
Yes. Well, Dr. Khoraby, in light of that move, Sudan actually called for initiating the negotiations regarding the Halab and Shalatin, and the Egyptian government was quick to announce that Halab and Shalatin are Egyptian sovereign territory. How do you view this this move by the Egyptian government? How do you view this move by the Sudanese government? And was that something that Egypt should take very much to heart, or is this something that the Egyptian government should have expected from a country like Sudan?
Okay, actually, Dr. Walid, what he just said now, it's true, 100%. And we should also find a way to sort this issue of Halab and Shalatin with Sudan forever. The best way is to have a negotiation without having any media. I mean, there is no even press conference, there is no, you don't mention even in the media that there is a negotiation. And since we are going to have a good faith, because I'm sure that Sudan and Egypt, they are one body. I am, as you know, been between Sudan and Egypt always. I have already something in Sudan business. So the idea is we have a good faith already. Our president and Sudanese leader, Mr. Omar Bashir, also they are keen, both of them, to have a serious and good and warm relationship between the two the two countries. People from each country, they don't say, you cannot find any Sudanese, he can think that he cannot go to Egypt one day, and vice versa for the Egyptians. So what is spoiling everything is the media. I'm sorry to say this, because everyone, especially talk show programs, everyone who want to attract people to come to have many advertisements, and then they have a lot of income for the channel. He doesn't think totally about the harm is going to hit his country or his people. So this is a time from what happened from Sudanese government. They have the right to say this, but it is true or not. And also we have, it's our right when our foreign minister says that no, Halab and Shalatin is Egyptian territories. But at the end we should solve this one. We should not, from time to time to be raised like this. We should we should have a negotiation team, and we have even this international law experts and advisors and whatever in a very, very, very low profile. And at the end, the Egyptian and Sudanese government's representatives are going to make an international press conference, and those will say, this is the conclusion, Halab al-Shalatin is Egyptian, or Halab al-Shalatin is Sudanese, or the part is in Egypt and another part, whatever. But we should, this is the time to finalize. We don't want to leave any more cases like this to be, okay, let us, because without having a solution, a complete solution for this problem, maybe it will raise a lot of conflict, and it is going to harm the relationship between the two countries. And we are going to face food crisis, and Sudan, we are dependent on Sudan, and Sudan is dependent on Egypt to have a lot of investments and whatever. So we cannot leave this case anymore. This is the right time for the two leaders to give their instructions, to have a committee gathering representatives from the two governments and start finding a solution, and give them like 6 months. You should sit together, everyone is going to bring the documents and whatever, and after these 6 months, as I told you, in international press conference, we are going to announce in a very friendly and brotherhood way, because Egypt and Sudan is one thing.
Yes. Well, Dr. Gamal, because we're running out of time, but this is an important question now. As Dr. Khoraby mentioned earlier in tonight's episode, one of the main issues for Egypt, critical and sensitive issues, has been the Renaissance Dam by Ethiopia. Now, in light of this incident of Halab and Shalatin, which affects both Egypt and Sudan. Now, Sudan is also part of the equation in terms of the Renaissance Dam, part of the three countries, Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia. Do you feel that this, even though that in the near future or later on, the whole situation of Khoraby and Shalatin will be official, that it is Egyptian territories, they are Egyptian territories, and they belong to Egypt. Do you feel that this might cause some sort of a tension or have some sort of a bad effect on Egypt in terms of this solving this Renaissance dam dilemma?
Yes, I think one of the reasons that Egypt did not open any discussions on the Khoraby and Shalatin issue is to avoid any conflict with Sudan. Because we are, as you mentioned now, the Renaissance Dam is being built very quickly, and this is not the time to lose the support of Sudan, so it's better left undiscussed, for a future date.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank our very distinguished guest, Dr. Shreif Khoraby, member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs. I'd also like to thank Dr. Walid Gamal, president of the Export Council for Building Materials. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Nile International. I'm Shreif. Thank you for joining us.